Hello, I'm Tom Verschoten from Threetom Modular synthesizers, and I'm briefly going to introduce myself and my company first, because I realize I'm a very small company and I may not be that well known yet. So just to give you a bit of background, I'm an engineer by trade, and that's also my day job. So I'm an R&D engineer and a maker in a big research institute in Belgium. It's important to know that I'm more of an engineer than I am a musician. So I typically focus on making things rather than making music. I leave the making of music to my customers. Now, about Threetom Modular. Threetom Modular is a hobby that got out of hand and started somewhere around 2020. And I focus on making boutique Eurorack modules. I'm based in Bonheide in Belgium, which is a small town that's about right in the middle between Brussels and Antwerp. And I design only analog circuits. And important to know, I consciously run Threetom Modular synthesizers as a side business. So that offers me the luxury of only releasing things when they're 100% finished. And I can do this because my income does not depend on making money from modules. Finally, I'd like to maybe state that even though I'm a very small company, I have a very strong focus on quality control and traceability. So nothing ever leaves without it passing by my hands and me personally doing quality control. And that also shows in the number of returns I've seen. So there's over 1,500 of my modules in the world right now, and I think only ever 3 came back with an issue. So doing a good job. So I currently have 3 products out. The first one is the one that's most well known, which is called Steve's MS-22. It's a very compact filter based or inspired by the Korg MS-20. And I originally designed this filter for a guy called Steve, who had a physical disability, and he had very short arms and could only have a very small rack. And to help him out, and as a challenge to myself, I designed this filter so he could have this really elaborate filter in a very tiny space. He was very happy. I then showed this thing on Facebook, and there it got out of hand because people were like, oh, I also want one. And now, about 5 years later, there's about 1,500 of them sold. Also, at some point, Steve's MS-22 was on the #1 spot in the Modular Grid Top 100. And it's still up there somewhere. The next module I released is Doppio, which is a stereo soft clipping amplifier, drive, and limiter. I have a lot of customers who use this end of chain during performances to protect the PA or recording devices from hard clipping. And it allows you also to glue and make things louder in the very limited headroom that is available in a Eurorack synthesizer. And then finally, there's Mixing Flask, which is a utility mixer where I engineered out all the things I hate about utility mixers. Being that typically they're quite boring to look at, and so this one has a ton of indicator lights, which make it more fun and also informative. There's also a soft clipping circuit on the mix bus inspired by Doppio, so that prevents you from mixing too hot, which is surprisingly easy to do on an average utility mixer. And then finally, each channel has up to 6 dB of gain, so if you're working with a sampler that's a bit on the quiet side, you can still give it a boost. Important to know is that all of my products so far are also available as DIY kits if you like soldering. The difficulty varies a bit. Mixing Flask is super easy. Doppio is easy. Steve's MS-22 is not a beginner project, let's say. And then finally, I also have these things that look like spaceships. They're actually adapters for connecting Eurorack synthesizers to an oscilloscope or other test equipment if you like to do the Heinbach thing. My stuff is available through a few retailers worldwide. Perfect Circuit in the US, Signal Sounds in the UK, Schneidersladen in Berlin, A Performance Electronics in Belgium, and the DIY stuff is available from Tonk and Exploding Shed. And then finally, importantly, you can also buy directly from me from my own web shop at www.threetom.com. And also here at SynthFest, I have some stock for if anybody wants to buy some goodies to take home. But okay, so now that I've introduced myself and some of my products, we can dive into the demo. I can show you what I have here, and I will deconstruct the patch a little bit and show you some of the sounds of the filter. For a more in-depth demo of the little mixer and of Doppio, I would ask that you come to my booth where I have an oscilloscope set up, and I can show you in depth what it's doing. It may not translate that well here on stage. Here on stage, I'm going to focus on the filter. All right, great. We have the camera feed, so let's turn this up. So in this little case, I've made a small Eurorack beatbox, and so there's 3 elements to this mix. This is on Mixing Flask, that these elements come together. The first channel is a kick. This is coming from the Erica Synth's sample drum. Then the second element are also sampled drums, which are randomly picked from a drum loop. It's picking slices, also coming from the sample drum, and is then going into this Steve's MS-22 filter. The third element is this bass voice that's made up of the chainsaw supersaw oscillator going into Steve's MS-22, and then also going into a VCA that opens up with an envelope. So let's first have a closer look at the drums. So this filter is currently sweeping over that drum signal. There's an LFO coming from Pam's Pro Workout going into a modulation output here. So let me run through all of the controls and show you how this works. I'm going to take out the modulation so we can operate manually. I'm going to completely open up the filter now. So the top knob here is the low pass filter, and sweeping it sounds like this. There's also a high pass filter, which is the second knob. We can link these filters using this switch here, and it has 3 positions. In the center, the filters are not linked. In the up position, it's it sounds like this. In the downwards position, it changes to a band pass filter of which we can select the bandwidth. So by default, the bandwidth is pretty wide. And we can make it much narrower by putting the high pass knob close to noon. So currently, I'm using all of the filters at a high resonance setting. When we turn that down, the filter behaves much more cleanly. It's more well behaved. Typically, when people use this filter, it's for the high resonance setting. Now, I told you earlier that this filter is inspired by the MS-20 filter, but it's not a true clone. It's its own thing. It goes a bit beyond. So beyond 12 o'clock, this filter starts to self-oscillate. And so that's about the furthest that the original goes, and this one goes much farther. So I'm going to dive a bit deeper in the applications of that in a second. I'm just going to discuss the rest of the controls first. Next, there's the gain button. In contrast to the typical gain button on most Eurorack filters, this is not only input gain. So because these filters are in series, if you would have purely an input gain and crank it, you would have the first filter distort quite hard, and then the second filter would be filtering that away cleanly. Here in Steve's MS-22, there's a VCA before the first filter and then between the two filters. And as a result, there's good gain staging between the two filters, and the whole range of the gain knob is in general quite musical. Then there's two CV inputs. This is the first one, and this is the attenuator that goes with it. And that always goes to the low-pass cutoff filter. You can also see on the LED what the modulations are doing and what the status of all the parameters here are. So I'm going to disable this now, and then I'll talk about the secondary input, which is called the auxiliary CV or the ACV, and that has this attenuator. So as you can see, by default, it's not doing anything yet, and that's because we have to tell it where to go. And that's done with this modulation matrix, these three switches to the left of the high pass, resonance, and gain knobs. So let me demonstrate by turning down the gain. And if I put the switch in the up position, the LFO that's coming in is going to add positively or clockwise to the position of this knob. That's a very slow LFO. Conversely, we can also turn this up and then put it in the downwards position, and that will make the parameter move the other way. If you're patient. So what's interesting about this is that we can do this for several parameters at the same time. So I can increase the gain, but also have the high pass sweep. Right. So what this allows you to do is to you have lots of flexibility, lots of routing options in a really tight and compact format. Okay, so now let's go back to what happens if we set the resonance control and let the filter go into self-oscillation. I'm going to remove the output. Filters fighting for control, for dominance over the output, and we can upset the balance of that fight by changing the resonance and the gain controls. If we give it more resonance, the high pass filter will win, and so there's only one frequency coming through. If we give it more gain, the low pass filter will win. Now, this may not sound very nice, but if we now drench this in reverb, we can make complex drones. So I'm going to put the drums back in now, and it will act as a regular filter. Okay, so let me now show you the synthesizer voice that I also have patched up here. So also here, the extreme resonance in conjunction with the VCA can be used to shape the sound. Let me now open up the VCA, and then we can listen to the filter sweeping over the oscillator. Okay, so this is the high-pass filter. This is the high pass. I'm now going to engage the bandpass mode. The second bandpass mode. And now I will make the bandpass smaller. And this can give it a formanty quality, so So what I'm now going to do is add some modulation to this. I have the same envelope that goes to the VCA, go to the FCV. On the ACV I have a little decoration, and I'm going to send that to the high pass, and it only plays every 4 bars, so Okay, let's add in the rest of the elements. Maybe we're demonstrating now is one of the soft limiter of the mixing flask. So currently it's enabled and I'm mixing quite hot. I'm going to disable that now, and I expect to hear hard clipping whenever the kick hits. You'll also see this red indicator light go on whenever that happens. And so whenever that occurs, you hear these harsh overtones, and I'm going to enable the soft clipping again, and then those will disappear. So in some cases this may be a bit of a subtle thing, and maybe during a performance you may not actually hear this, but nevertheless your recording may be ruined because there's hard clipping in your recording. With this you don't have to worry about it. The mix will sound saturated, but it won't sound harsh because of hard clipping. All right, so that concludes my little demo. So if you want some more information, you can find me at booth number 14, particularly if you like some more in-depth demonstration of how the Doppio limiter works. I invite you to come and take a look. And thanks a lot for your attention, and enjoy the rest of the weekend.